Hello everyone, I am Vibha Chauhan and welcome to Jai Hind Classes Funda Clear. So today I will explain Class 8 Civics Chapter 1. Chapter is the Indian Constitution. So in this chapter we will be discussing about the Constitution of India, key features of Constitution of India, why do we need it. We will discuss all these factors in this chapter. So let's begin our chapter with a football match. Suppose if there is a football match and there are no rules and regulations implemented on it. So will it be alright? No, it won't be right. It will be incorrect because players will not obey rules. Then how can it be correct? And not for only the football match, even for every games in this world, in this area, in any area, it won't be right because without rules, how can a game be right? So rules are important to run a game, and similarly to govern a country, to run a country, we also need a set of rules, and those set of rules in a written form is called a constitution. So thus you can say that constitution is a written form of set of rules and regulations to run a country, to govern a country. So in this chapter we will discuss about the Indian Constitution, which was completely written on in November 1949. It was completely completed, but it was implemented on India on 26 January 1950. And our Indian Constitution was drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of drafting committee, and it was written over many debates. It was completely written by the 300 members of Constituent Assembly, and about them we will discuss later in this chapter. So what are we going to discuss in this chapter? What we are going to study in this chapter? The topics of this chapter are: why does a country need a constitution? The Indian Constitution key features, and in this we will study federalism, parliamentary form of government, separation of power, fundamental rights, secularism. So first topic is, why does a country need a constitution? So you may think that why does a country need constitution? Why do we need it? Because if without constitution, what will be wrong? We have to think about it. So there are many reasons on it. There are many reasons for a country, because every country need a constitution, and each democratic country has a constitution, but that doesn't mean that every country which has constitution is a democratic country, because for becoming a democratic country, their constitution should be also democratic. It doesn't matter if it is a country and has a constitution, that doesn't mean that it is a democratic country. For being a democratic country, we have to make a constitution democratic, and there are many reasons, key features of constitution. First, it lays out the forms, ideals of kind of basis of the country which we as citizens aspire to live in. That means from the constitution of any country we understand what the fundamental nature of the country is, what the people of that country are thinking, because in the constitution there are rules to govern people of that country. So it should be on the basis of people, not as against opponent to the people. So we have to make a constitution in which all rules will be obeyed by all people, will be on the side of all people. So it aspires, it lay out the forms, it lay out the rules which we as citizens aspire to live on. And we can get example, that is the history case study of Nepal. Nepal recently was a monarchy country. In 1990, it was made a completely monarchy system. There was a monarchy government in there, and the people, after a long struggle in recently 2006, it became a completely democratic country. And after that the people of Nepal wrote a new constitution, because in the earlier constitution the main rules was about the monarchy, but they have to make a constitution in which there are the rules which will be focused on the democracy of Nepal. So you can see that constitution lays out the ideas based on the people, because if they had used the earlier constitution, then they had to be monarchy. What would be difference? They would not be a democratic country, but they have to make a new constitution. So you can see that constitution lays out the ideals forms on the kind of basis as we as citizens aspire to live in. And second reason of constitution, why does we need a constitution, is that if there is a democratic country, then we have elected people as our leaders. They have become our leaders, and constitution helps us to form a politics of that country. By the constitution we can understand the politics of that country, whether it is monarchy, whether it is dictatorship, whether it is democratic. We can understand by the constitution. As you can see, Nepal's constitution, we can understand that it is democratic, but earlier if we had seen that, we could say that it was monarchy. So by constitution we understand the politics of constitution. How is the politics of country, how is the politics of that country. And in that, if we have chosen some leaders, we have elected some leaders as a democratic country, then they can misuse their power. So constitution is also to defend us from the misuse of power of leaders. Suppose if there is a class and there is a monitor who is a bully. So if teacher had gone from the class and if he is bullying students, and when teacher came, he is blaming others that they were disturbing class. So he is misusing his power of monitor, becoming a monitor of that class. So similarly, rules in constitutions are as written to defend us from the misuse of powers of leaders, because they can offend us, they can exploit us with their powers. So we can get the support from the constitution. And the domination of majority over minority is another problem. So in constitution we also get satisfied to this. There would not be any domination of majority, of more people, more powerful people to less groups, to less peoples, to minority, because it's a crime, it's inequality. So it is also mentioned in our constitution, in Indian constitution. We are discussing about the Indian constitution, so it is all mentioned in Indian constitution. And the third significant feature, the third significant reason why does we need a constitution is to save us from ourselves. You might have been confused. This may sound strange, but this is reality. Sometimes we take decisions which is against us, but constitution helps us from that. For example, if it is your exam and you are not preparing only to watch a TV show which is your favorite. So you have asked your parents to turn off the TV so that you can not watch the TV and you can prepare for the exam. So on the exam day you will see that it was your right decision, but if you had taken a wrong decision, then it will harm you in the future. So constitution helps us to save us from ourselves, decision. For example, if people think that there are many miserable things in this democracy of India and they found themselves as miserable lives, so what they would offend against the government. They would become an opponent to the government and they will ask for a dictatorship, and you know that it is wrong, it is against their interests. So constitution helps us sometimes to save us from ourselves, to save us from our own decisions. There are many things there, but in this chapter we will discuss about the summary of the Indian constitution, because in one chapter we cannot understand the whole constitution of India. So our next topic is the Indian constitution key features. So by the 20th century, the national movements were going on in India, in our country. So the nationalists, the political leaders were imagining the future of India, imagining the future of independent India. What would be the politics of India? And they were thinking about democracy in India because they had already suffered to the misuse of power, misuse of the authoritarian power to the colonial state, and they were already exploited. They were already being exploited by the Britishers, by the authority of the Britishers. So they wanted to make a democracy in India, so there would be equally treated all people, so there will be equality among all people, and they wanted to make constitution. So for this, in 1946, 300 leaders, 300 members, you can say, from throughout the country, throughout India, were chosen. And after that they wrote a constitution, but the constitution was drafted by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who was the chairman of drafting committee, and on that drafted constitution there were many debates for long time, and after that those 300 members who were from different parts of the country wrote a constitution which was done in November 1949, and it was implemented on India on 26 January 1950. And the all credit goes of in the constitution to those 300 members, to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is also considered as the father of Indian constitution because he had drafted, and after that we could only make it more advanced, we can change it. So the constitution was made, and there were many laws which were for the people of India. There were laws against poverty, to eradicate poverty from India by the socio-economic reforms in India as well as the advanced technology in India. So they had made laws in against of equality to eradicate poverty because their main feature was that they had already suffered from the Britishers, and there are many key features of constitution which helps us to these things. We will discuss later. So our first subtopic is federalism. So as I have talked that there were many key features of Constitution of India. There are many key features which help us as citizens to live on for us. They are made for us, and they are the key features on constitutions. So we will discuss a few of them. So first is federalism. What do you mean by federalism? Federalism means there are many level of governments in India, like central level, then state level, and then the local level, and there are many. So this type of government in India is called as federalism because there are not only one, there are many states, there are many levels of governments in India, so it is called as the federalism. And central level, as you know, which covers all the country. States level, that means they are the prohibited, they are given their own states, so they could govern it. And the local, as you have already studied about it, the Panchayati Raj, the Gram Sabha, all this is a local, which is districts or even the villages. So federalism means having more than one level of government in any country, that is called as federalism. So when the constitution was being written by the members of Constituent Assembly, people were suggesting that there should not be only one level of government in India, that is union, or you can say central, because a person cannot run the whole country from New Delhi, only sitting on the New Delhi, and instead it was needed by the people of India, and the leaders were also thinking about this. So we had made central level and then state level, and from the basis of villages we had made Panchayati Raj. So there was problem of dividing their power. So there is also a level of power given to each tier of the government, to the central level and to the state level. There are 3 lists, those are union list, state list and concurrent list, and their use of money is also given of each tier separately in this constitution. There are separately given how to use money, from where to use money, from for all these 3 tiers, those tiers of constitution. It is also mentioned in it because the leaders felt that we have to do it. Only one power cannot hold the whole country. We have to make separations. So that was federalism. People were allowed to do this, to separate their power. But state power is, although the state power has autonomy, it is freedom, it has freedom of its own, but it has to follow the rules of central power. It has to follow the rules of central power which are commanded by central power. It cannot deny those rules. It cannot refuse those rules, disobey those rules. That is also mentioned in constitution, because we cannot give so much power to the state. We have to make balance between them. So our next subtopic is parliamentary form of government. So in India there is a parliamentary form of government. While the constitution was written, people have already suffered from inequality, and they had seen that there is a need of election in India. There is a need of election in India. So the leaders, the writers who had written constitution mentioned in constitution that there would be universal adult suffrage in India. That means all people in India, irrespective of his or her caste, creed, gender, sex, color, all these things, there would be equality. They would all elect their representatives, because all people are free to elect their representatives in India. They have chance to do it. So in India there is a universal adult suffrage that is mentioned in constitution, and there is an age limit to this. All people cannot do this. All people cannot elect their representatives. People above the age of 18 years can elect their representatives irrespective of their all things. It doesn't matter what their language is, because in India there is so much diversity. There are many states, there are many languages, there are many cultures, religions in India. So in constitution it is mentioned to diverse India for national unity. That is why there is universal adult suffrage. It is federalism in India. So our next subtopic is separation of power. So as I have already talked about 2 key features of constitution, the third key feature of constitution is separation of powers. According to the constitution, Indian constitution, there are mainly 3 organs of governments. They are legislature, executive and the judiciary. Legislature who are elected by the people, who are the representatives of people, that means which we have elected as our representatives. Their main work is to make laws, to write laws. Second is executive. You can say it is a smaller group to run the government, to implement those laws to the people. Their main work is to spread those laws, to implement those laws. And the third is judiciary. By the name you can say it is all the court system of the India for the justice in India. So judiciary is the main, we will discuss about in later chapters. And in judiciary, in the state level we have High Court, and in the central level we have Supreme Court. So in Constitution of India it is mentioned that all these 3 organs have to separate power, have to be given separate power by the government of India, so they can do their work. That means if judiciary is suspected, judiciary suspects someone, then it can arrest, it can make sentence on that person, or even to the government of India if it is wrong. Their main work is to justice. So next subtopic is fundamental rights. So the next key feature of Constitution of India, Indian Constitution, are fundamental rights. They show the conscience of the members of Government of India, of the writers, of the members of Constituent Assembly of India. Because of fundamental rights, today we are free to give speeches, to follow, to spread our religions. We have different fundamental rights. Basically, there are 3 fundamental rights. We will discuss about them later. So fundamental rights, why are they so important? Because at the time when the Constitution was being written, there was suspicion against the state power, because they could misuse their power to the people. They can exploit their power, they can exploit the people of India. So there was suspicion to the state power of India. Let me make one thing clear. Here state I am using, that is a sovereign territory. That doesn't mean MP or you can say UP in India. That means a sovereign region, a territory of people who occupy government, and government is who administer the state. That doesn't, we cannot interchange its states, because government changes. Like today's BJP, there can be Congress, then can be UPA. So government always changes. One government cannot remain for every time. So there is a difference from states and government, and here I am using state as a sovereign territory. So there was a suspicion against the state power that they could exploit the people of India. So we have been given fundamental rights by the members of Constituent Assembly, by the laws mentioned in Constitution. That helps them more. Thus you can say that fundamental rights helps us against the arbitrary and the absolute power of the leaders of the government of India, and as well as the individuals or other groups, institutions in India. If anyone is doing wrong against us, it is harming our fundamental rights, and we can raise our voice because we are given those fundamental rights by the Constitution. So basically there are 6 fundamental rights as I have already talked. So these are, first is right to equality. Right to equality, as from the name we can understand that all citizens are equal before law. They are equally treated by government of India. They are accessible to go any place of India, to go any government place of India, any hotel, any school, any park, anywhere they can go. They are equally treated. There will not be any kind of untouchability, because it is completely strictly prohibited in our Constitution. All people are equal to the government irrespective of their caste, creed, age, all things, their race, their sex, all this doesn't matter. They are the citizens of India. They are equal, and thus it is called as the right to equality, and there are many articles in it, so you don't have to be confused. So second fundamental right is right to freedom. That means every citizen in India has right to freedom. That means he or she is fully has freedom of their speech. They can spread their speech, they can make their association, institutions, they can go anywhere, they can live anywhere in India, they can visit any place in India. So they have completely the right of freedom in India. It is a fundamental right that we have freedom. We cannot be present in any area without any suspect. It is a right to freedom. Next right is against exploitation. Right against exploitation. So according to this fundamental right which is given by the Constitution, which is written in Constitution, this law is against the human trafficking, against the child labor, because if any kid is under the age of 14, then he or she cannot be done any work in hazardous factories, in dangerous factories, that is firework, crackers, these all things. So this law is against the exploitation of people, of citizens in India. That is why it is called as the right against exploitation. Next right is right to freedom of religion. every Indian, every citizen of India has fundamental rights to practice any religion. He or she cannot be forced by any other person of India, any other person, because he or she has completely fully fundamental right of freedom. He can practice any religion, propagate any religion. It is his choice, his own choice. Next fundamental right is cultural and education right. Cultural and education right. This fundamental right access us to open any school, to open any cultural school, to give education as well as to spread their religion, because they are completely fully given this fundamental right to open any school, open any institution, to spread their religion, to spread their thought. That is their own fundamental rights. And next and last fundamental right is constitutional remedies. If any person's fundamental rights has been violated by state government or any individual, then he can go to court to appeal against this. This is his fundamental right, this constitutional remedies. He can be, if there is any remedies, then he can go to the court to appeal this against this, and judiciary always helps us. But there is a point, if you are misusing this fundamental right, like you are making so much noise in the basis of the right to freedom, that is wrong. You cannot misuse these fundamental rights, because according to this you are violating other people's fundamental rights. So you have to learn this, and there are many articles in this. You have to learn this, and there is no need of those articles in this class. We will discuss later about them. So these are all the fundamental rights of us, citizens of Indians. And on this, what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar said, he said that there is his twofold objectives. First is, every person must be in the position to conclude this fundamental rights, to can get these fundamental rights. And second is that these fundamental rights can be on any person of India and can be against the most powerful person of the India, to the government of India. If they are violating any person's fundamental rights, then it must be applied on the most powerful government of the India. That is his twofold objectives, you can say. And in addition to this, there is directive principles of state policy, which is also called as DPSP. And in this, there are many laws. They are mainly focused to eradicate poverty, to make equality to this, to make advance the people of India, the citizens of India. Mainly their most focus is on the poverty, to eradicate poverty. So this was all about the fundamental rights. What are the fundamental rights of our citizens of India? So next subtopic is secularism. Secularism. What do you mean by secularism? A secular state. That means it doesn't propagate only one religion. All religions are equal. Secularism means all religions are equal, not only meant for one religion, a particular religion. For example, if it is Gita, Bhagavad Gita or Ramayana, that is not a secular thing, because it is propagated mainly to Hinduism. But if it is a civics book or it is history book, then it is a secular thing, because it doesn't spread only one religion. It is meant for all religions. So India is also a secular state. So this was all about the chapter. In this chapter, you have studied about the constitution. You have learnt about the constitution. Why does we need a constitution? And Indian constitution is amended over years. There have been many changes in Indian constitution. And as football match, if there is any other change in football rules, then the play will be different from the earliest. So similarly, in the constitution of India, if there is any change, then there would be a new fundamental religion, there would be a new fundamental nature of the India, nature of any country. If there is any change in the constitution of any country, then it can be changed. It can be changed in the fundamental nature of that country. So this was all about the chapter about the Constitution of India, and I have said that there are many changes. So in this chapter all information is not given, so you don't have to worry about this, about the constitution. It is very important for you, crucial for you, because constitution leaves out the ideals as we citizens aspire to live in. So it is very important to you learn this, but you don't have to hurry, you don't have to worry about this, because you will learn about this, you will study about this constitution in higher classes and in other chapters in higher classes. This is not meant for in this class. So this was all about the chapter. I have discussed all topics and subtopics, and in next video I will discuss next chapter. So thank you very much.